The seventh house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Cancer Rising, Part 1. The mirror that grounds the moon. Cancer Rising is soft yet self-protective, ruled by the moon. These individuals navigate the world through feeling, memory, and instinct. Deeply nurturing and emotionally responsive, they often seek shelter in the familiar and sentimental. Their identity is fluid and fluctuating, shaped by mood, home, and maternal impressions. Yet when it comes to the seventh house, the Kalatra Bhava, they are met by Capricorn, a mirror of structure, boundaries, and earthy sobriety. What Cancer absorbs, Capricorn contains. Where Cancer feels, Capricorn functions. This axis of water and earth challenges Cancer Rising to bring maturity and responsibility into the emotional field of relationships. Capricorn in the seventh house introduces Saturn's disciplined, reserved energy into the domain of partnership. It acts as a sobering force in the Cancerian emotional ocean, defining edges, setting limits, and imposing time. For the Cancer Rising native, the seventh house becomes the terrain of karmic accountability. Relationships are rarely light or casual. They carry the weight of duty, duration, and moral structure. This can feel both safe and severe, a bond that protects but also expects. Cancer needs warmth. Capricorn demands strength. The core desire of Cancer Rising is emotional security. They long to nurture and be nurtured, to belong and to protect. Yet Capricorn in the seventh reminds them that love is not just a feeling, it is a practice. This polarity often manifests through partnerships with emotionally contained, older, or highly responsible individuals. These partners may appear stern, controlled, or status-driven, projecting the very qualities Cancer feels least familiar with, but most needs to grow. In the relationship mirror, the Cancer Rising must move from emotional dependency to emotional accountability. They are asked to hold themselves together under pressure, to support others without becoming consumed, and to honor bonds even when comfort is gone. Capricorn doesn't promise romantic bliss, but it promises endurance, and that is the ground Cancer can eventually root into. Saturn as ruler, karma comes through commitment. Saturn rules Capricorn and therefore governs Cancer Rising's seventh house. This makes Saturn a key significator of how, when, and why relationships unfold. Saturn is the planet of karma, structure, and time. It delays, tests, and refines. For Cancer Rising, this means that partnerships may come later in life, after considerable emotional maturation. Early experiences in love may feel disappointing or heavy, as they are unconsciously working through old karmic scripts. When aligned, Saturn in the seventh brings dignity, maturity, and mutual reliability in love. The partner becomes a pillar rather than a storm, solid, principled, and enduring. Yet, if the Cancerian self remains overly childlike or sentimental, this mirror may seem cold, unyielding, or emotionally barren. The task is not to lose softness, but to fortify it with strength. Emotional landscape. Love is the test of time. Cancer Rising approaches love from a place of need, seeking tenderness, familiarity, and emotional rhythm. But Capricorn demands containment, space, order, and distance. This often results in early experiences where the native feels abandoned, emotionally unsupported, or burdened by others' expectations. But these are not punishments. They are Saturn's way of teaching discernment. Emotionally, these natives may learn that love matures not when it is loud and dramatic, but when it is quiet and reliable. What begins in longing can evolve into loyalty. What feels like restriction may reveal itself as commitment. And the greatest emotional transformation comes not from receiving endless comfort, but from offering steady presence in return. Activation years and turning points. Kalatra Bhava activates for Cancer Rising at ages 7, 19, 31, 43, 55, 67, and 79. These years are crucibles of relational reckoning, testing their capacity for responsibility, delay, and discipline in love. At 19 or 31, they may enter a relationship that feels like work, or like fate. At 43 or beyond, they may finally understand the meaning of endurance, forgiveness, and silent loyalty. Unlike the fast-moving emotional arcs of earlier life, the relationships formed after maturity often bring the true Saturnian blessing, a partner who is not flashy but faithful, a bond not of convenience but of earned strength. From feeling to fidelity. Ultimately, the seventh house for Cancer Rising teaches that emotional sensitivity must be rooted in ethical responsibility. Love is not just a sanctuary, it is a contract. The Capricorn mirror doesn't ask Cancer to suppress their heart. It asks them to contain and refine it, to build emotional resilience, not by escaping, but by remaining. The Cancer rising native, when transformed by this house, becomes a pillar of both compassion and consistency. Their love may not always be poetic, but it is profound. It endures, not because it avoids pain, but because it is willing to carry it. And in this alchemical labor of love, they discover that strength is not the absence of feeling. It is the structure that holds it all together. The 7th house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Cancer rising 2, conjunctions in Capricorn, commitment, karma, and control. Saturn and Venus in the 7th, enduring love or cold contract. For Cancer rising, the union of Saturn, ruler of relationships, in Capricorn brings a test of depth and duration. Venus desires warmth, romance, and connection, while Saturn imposes delay, responsibility, and realism. When benefic, this conjunction produces deeply committed, emotionally loyal partnerships that grow stronger over time. The partner may be mature, stable, and focused on building a solid life together. But if afflicted, it can lead to relationships that feel transactional, emotionally barren, or driven by duty over desire. Love may be postponed, burdened, or emotionally restricted. The lesson: love requires devotion, not just emotion. Saturn and Moon, the internal divorce. When Saturn, the ruler of the 7th, conjoins the Moon, the ruler of the 1st, the axis of identity and partnership fuses into a karmic loop. For Cancer rising, this brings powerful themes of emotional suppression, guilt, or duty-bound relationships. If well placed, it results in deep emotional resilience, where the native can remain grounded in difficult relational circumstances. They become caretakers, counselors, or long-suffering but loyal partners. If afflicted, it generates emotional repression, chronic sadness in partnerships, and feelings of being unseen. There may be deep longing for emotional intimacy, but simultaneous fear of dependence or rejection. Saturn and Mars, the tense bond. Mars acts, Saturn restrains. When these two malefics unite in the 7th house, Cancer rising may encounter partners who are assertive, strategic, or controlling. This conjunction brings karmic heat into cold Capricorn, creating relationships that require endurance, discipline, and hard-earned trust. If benefic, it forms a strong-willed pair capable of facing adversity with strategy and patience. If afflicted, it produces explosive silences, passive-aggressive dynamics, or relational cold wars. The marriage may feel like a battlefield where neither side surrenders. The only way forward is structured conflict resolution, not avoidance or domination. Saturn and Mercury silent calculations in love. Mercury in Capricorn is rational, cautious, and methodical. When joined with Saturn in the 7th, Cancer rising may gravitate toward intellectual, reserved partners, or become one. Conversations are practical, strategic, and often centered around logistics rather than emotion. If benefic, this is the couple that builds together, masters of communication through planning, long-term vision, and mutual respect. If afflicted, this pairing can lead to emotional distance, intellectual detachment, or cold, transactional dynamics. There may be overthinking in matters of the heart. The relationship becomes a project rather than a poem. Saturn and Rahu, ambitious partnerships or shadow contracts. Saturn gives structure, Rahu breaks norms. Their conjunction in the 7th brings powerful karmic alliances for Cancer rising. These natives may attract ambitious, status-driven, or unconventional partners, possibly foreign, older, or from vastly different backgrounds. If benefic, it yields worldly success, shared social missions, or long-lasting, goal-oriented partnerships. If afflicted, the marriage may be built on insecurity, manipulation, or obsession with external validation. Love is bound to social climbing, image, or fear of loneliness. The relationship feels fated, but often it's a karmic debt being cleared. Venus and Mars, the passionate builders. When Venus and Mars unite in Capricorn, Cancer rising experiences relationships as a mixture of passion and practicality. Mars brings drive and desire. Venus brings charm and affection. In earthy Capricorn, this pairing often yields sexually magnetic partnerships that are equally focused on results, building a home, a legacy, or material success together. If benefic, the native enjoys grounded sensuality and strong chemistry in love, alongside long-term commitment. If afflicted, this may become a tug-of-war between affection and control, tenderness and rigidity. Emotional availability must be intentionally cultivated to avoid burnout or bitterness. Venus and Rahu, desire on display. This is one of the most alluring, intoxicating conjunctions. Venus represents love and beauty. Rahu amplifies and distorts. For Cancer rising, this conjunction in the 7th can bring captivating, glamorous, or foreign partners who offer excitement and novelty. There may be an intense desire for status through relationship, marrying into power, wealth, or prestige. If benefic, it brings charm, charisma, and a partner who inspires social visibility or creative expression. If afflicted, it can lead to deceptive partners, vanity-driven unions, or emotional disillusionment when fantasy collapses into reality. Venus and Ketu, longing and letting go. Venus seeks connection. Ketu seeks detachment. Together in the 7th, they create a push-pull between romance and renunciation. For Cancer rising, this may bring a spiritual or emotionally unavailable partner, or a quiet inner sense that no relationship can truly fulfill them. If benefic, the native may form soul-deep connections with a spiritual undertone, love as seva, devotion, or mutual surrender. If afflicted, the relationship feels incomplete, cold, or dissolving. There may be past life links, unresolved karmas, or early heartbreaks that echo into present relationships. Healing comes from understanding that detachment is not the same as avoidance. Moon and Mercury, emotion meets logic. When the Moon, Cancer's ruler, and Mercury join in the 7th house, Cancer rising may find themselves oscillating between feeling and thinking in relationships. If benefic, this pairing supports emotionally intelligent communication, where care is articulated clearly and partners become both lovers and confidants. If afflicted, this can result in emotional volatility, indecisiveness in love, or speaking before feeling is fully processed. Their challenge lies in harmonizing mood with meaning, emotion with expression. In summary, for Cancer rising, Capricorn in the 7th house brings karmic gravitas to relationships. Love is not a flight of feeling. It is a test of structure, sacrifice, and soul endurance. These conjunctions shape how they build or break. Some deepen their devotion, while others press them to their emotional edge. The Cancer native is asked to mature emotionally, not by abandoning their softness, but by encasing it in inner strength. The partner is not merely a source of comfort, they are often a karmic initiator, a soul who reflects back every unexamined fear or unconscious pattern. Some relationships crack open their defenses, others give them the bones on which to build real belonging. In time, Cancer rising learns the lesson of their 7th house, that love without structure is longing, and structure without love is loneliness. But when both are present, they become the quiet force of devotion that outlasts the storm. The 7th house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Scorpio rising part 1. The mirror that softens the sting. Scorpio rising is intense, guarded, and fiercely self-controlled. Ruled by Mars and Ketu, these natives carry a magnetic presence and a deep need for emotional power and self-mastery. Their instinct is to protect their vulnerabilities through silence, observation, and psychological control. But when it comes to the 7th house, Kalatra Bhava, they meet Taurus, a sign of earthy calm, sensual stability, and material simplicity. This is the mirror that slows them down. Where Scorpio hides, Taurus reveals. Where Scorpio transforms, Taurus preserves. Through relationships, Scorpio rising is invited to ground their intensity, soften their defenses, and find value in emotional continuity rather than volatility. Taurus, ruled by Venus, brings the energy of comfort, reliability, and tangible affection into the house of partnership. For Scorpio rising, who often craves depth and emotional risk, Taurus offers something radical: consistency. The partner may be sensual, loyal, routine-oriented, or grounded in physical reality. But this contrast challenges Scorpio's compulsive emotional scanning. It teaches them to stop bracing for betrayal and to start building with trust. Love here isn't dramatic, it's dependable. Scorpio seeks depth. Taurus offers steadiness. Scorpio rising tends to approach relationships with suspicion or intensity. They expect transformation, trauma bonds, or emotional fusion. But Taurus in the 7th house demands presence, patience, and pleasure in the moment. The partner may seem slow, unshaken, or unconcerned with Scorpio's inner storm. At first, this can feel emotionally tone-deaf, but eventually it reveals something healing. Not all love needs to cut to the bone. Some love simply stays. This polarity draws the Scorpio native toward partners who value stability, sensual enjoyment, and material peace. These partners offer grounding energy that helps Scorpio come out of their emotional bunker. Yet, in this process, Scorpio is asked to surrender control, to allow love to unfold, rather than orchestrate it. Venus as ruler, beauty, simplicity, and presence. Venus, ruler of Taurus, governs pleasure, beauty, and self-worth. In the 7th house, she brings themes of affection, trust, and body-based intimacy. For Scorpio rising, relationships often revolve around learning how to be emotionally vulnerable without losing power, and Venus helps them do just that. The partner teaches them to slow down, receive, and experience security as something sensual, not just strategic. Yet Venus also confronts Scorpio's fear of superficiality. The challenge is to embrace simplicity without dismissing it. Scorpio must learn that steady affection isn't shallow, it's sacred. Emotional landscape, from control to contentment. Emotionally, Scorpio rising can oscillate between hyper-intimacy and emotional withdrawal. But Taurus in the 7th pushes them toward emotional stability. The partner may be stubborn, tactile, or predictably calm, even during Scorpio's inner turbulence. This can be frustrating, but it's also where growth begins. Over time, Scorpio learns to trust the slow rhythm of love. They stop demanding signs of crisis and start allowing consistency. They discover that it's not just the alchemical fire of transformation that creates meaning, but the quiet rituals of loyalty, touch, and daily devotion. Activation years and turning points. Kalatra Bhava activates for Scorpio rising at ages 7, 19, 31, 43, 55, 67, and 79. These years often mark profound shifts in how they understand partnership, not through drama, but through grounded shifts. At 19 or 31, they may meet someone who teaches them what enduring affection feels like. At 43 and beyond, they may finally embrace the power of relational peace over emotional provocation. These are the years when Scorpio realizes that control isn't the same as safety, and that being known slowly is sometimes more intimate than being seen instantly. From protection to presence. Ultimately, the 7th house for Scorpio rising is the sacred space where they shed the armor. Taurus shows them that love can be simple, sensual, and strong, not by storm, but by soil. The partner becomes their mirror of patience, presence, and trust. The Scorpio rising native, transformed by this house, becomes someone who no longer equates intensity with meaning. They discover a different kind of power, the ability to rest in love, to show up consistently, not just in crisis. And in that shift, their deepest transformation begins, not through secrecy, but through surrender. Not in control, but in contentment. The 7th house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Scorpio rising, conjunctions in Taurus, desire, grounding, and the battle between security and possession. Venus and Moon in the 7th, comfort and emotional grounding. For Scorpio rising, Venus and Moon together in Taurus, where the Moon is exalted, create a nurturing, emotionally safe space in relationships. Venus brings affection, the Moon brings emotional attunement. If benefic, this conjunction brings a loving, stable, and deeply sensual partner. The relationship feels emotionally secure and physically fulfilling. It supports emotional healing, domestic peace, and heartfelt devotion. If afflicted, however, this pairing can turn into emotional dependency, excessive comfort-seeking, or resistance to change. The partner may avoid conflict at all costs, leading to unresolved stagnation. Scorpio rising learns to honor the sweetness of stability without becoming trapped by emotional inertia. Venus and Sun, ego in the embrace. The Sun is enemy to Venus and combusts it. When together in Taurus, this pairing mixes love with ego. For Scorpio rising, the partner may be radiant, artistic, and affectionate, but also proud, needing to be admired or obeyed. If benefic, this creates a glamorous and affectionate union, often with a generous, socially present partner. Love becomes a shared aesthetic and public expression. If afflicted, the partner may be possessive or self-centered. The native may feel overpowered in subtle ways, caught between desire and domination. The journey is to differentiate adoration from autonomy and affection from ego appeasement. Venus and Mars, passion in the pleasure fields. Venus and Mars together in Taurus offer Scorpio rising a sensual and fiery partnership. Venus provides pleasure, Mars brings drive. If benefic, this creates a passionate, physically fulfilling relationship with strong attraction and mutual desire. The partner may be bold, seductive, and grounded. The couple enjoys building life through action and intimacy. If afflicted, however, this conjunction may cause possessiveness, jealousy, or arguments centered on control and pleasure. Power dynamics may underlie sensual expression. Scorpio rising must learn to balance sexual charge with emotional integrity. Venus and Saturn, the weight of affection. This conjunction imposes structure on Venus's pleasure. In Taurus, Saturn is uncomfortable, but can produce loyal, enduring love when benefic. For Scorpio rising, the partner may be older, cautious, or reserved with affection, but deeply dependable. The relationship grows slowly but lasts. If benefic, it fosters mutual respect, commitment, and grace under pressure. If afflicted, the partnership may feel emotionally cold, overly transactional, or defined by duty rather than desire. Love becomes a contract rather than a connection. Scorpio must learn to receive love through quiet endurance, not just intensity. Venus and Rahu, the Siren Song. Rahu amplifies Venus's sensuality and pleasure-seeking instincts in Taurus, creating a powerful magnetism. For Scorpio rising, this conjunction can bring a seductive, glamorous, or materially appealing partner, possibly foreign or unconventional. If benefic, this is a relationship filled with beauty, luxury, and shared indulgence. The partner may be artistically gifted or socially ambitious. If afflicted, this pairing leads to illusion, obsession, or addictive dynamics in love. The native may chase fantasy or status in love, losing themselves in appearances. Scorpio rising must learn to distinguish enchantment from embodiment. What looks stable may not be real. Venus and Ketu, detachment amidst desire. Ketu severs and Venus binds. Together in Taurus, they create paradox, love that is quiet, internalized, or withdrawn. For Scorpio rising, this can bring a spiritually inclined or emotionally aloof partner. If benefic, this pairing supports devotional love, simple living, and inner peace. The relationship may be minimalist but profound. If afflicted, it can signal lack of emotional intimacy, sexual disconnection, or indifference within marriage. Scorpio rising must learn that detachment in love doesn't mean absence, but instead a higher refinement of affection. They are asked to love with less need and more soul. Moon and Rahu, emotional overdrive or instinctual wisdom. The exalted moon, joined with Rahu, intensifies emotional hunger. For Scorpio rising, this may bring a partner who is emotionally compelling but unpredictable, someone who seeks nurturing yet fears vulnerability. If benefic, this supports intuitive bonding, emotional growth through unfamiliar experiences, and a sense of karmic emotional connection. If afflicted, however, it creates anxiety, mood volatility, or manipulative emotional behavior. The relationship swings between intimacy and escape. Scorpio rising must build emotional clarity to avoid becoming the emotional container for their partner's unprocessed chaos. Sun and Mercury, bright mind, soft ego. The Sun and Mercury in Taurus produce a partner who is articulate, loyal, and thoughtful. For Scorpio rising, this can create a communicative, practical union built on shared values. If benefic, the relationship brings mental stability, affectionate discussion, and reliable routines. If afflicted, ego may override, or the partner may appear always right but emotionally evasive. Love becomes filtered through reason. The challenge is to bring feeling back into conversation and to listen, not just fix. Mars and Saturn, drive meets discipline. This intense conjunction in Taurus brings strategic, result-driven relationships. For Scorpio rising, it can produce a partner who is both hardworking and deeply committed, yet emotionally stoic. If benefic, this supports power couple dynamics, where endurance, patience, and shared goals override temporary conflict. If afflicted, the union can feel restrictive, competitive, or laced with silent resentment. Fights are often passive-aggressive or slow-burning. The native must learn to express conflict clearly, rather than allow it to calcify into coldness. In summary, for Scorpio rising, Taurus in the 7th house grounds their relational instinct in the physical world, asking them to release emotional defensiveness and step into embodied trust. These conjunctions shape their mirror. Some offer peace, others provoke possessiveness. Some teach the pleasure of presence, others test the boundary between comfort and control. The Taurus field asks Scorpio to stop seeking emotional crisis as proof of love, and instead, to trust the quiet rituals of loyalty, shared meals, and steady affection. In Taurus, passion becomes patience. Power becomes touch, and love becomes less about who controls the current and more about who is willing to remain when the tide is still. In this slow-burning fire of devotion, Scorpio Rising discovers that love doesn't need to devour. It can simply stay. The 7th house, or Kalatra Bhava, Mirror of Self, Pisces Rising, Part 1. The mirror that anchors the dream. Pisces Rising is sensitive, imaginative, and deeply attuned to the emotional undercurrents of life. Ruled by Jupiter and co-ruled by Ketu, these natives navigate the world through intuition, compassion, and spiritual resonance. Their identity is fluid, defined more by feeling than form, more by dreams than details. They often dissolve boundaries in favor of connection and may drift toward people, places, and paths that evoke transcendence. But when it comes to the 7th house, Kalatra Bhava, they meet Virgo, the sign of order, discernment, and practical intelligence. This is the mirror that defines. Where Pisces dissolves, Virgo analyzes. Where Pisces believes, Virgo questions. Through relationships, the Pisces Rising is pulled out of fantasy and into form. Virgo, ruled by Mercury, brings logic, precision, and improvement into the realm of partnership. The partner may be thoughtful, efficient, service-minded, and detail-oriented, someone who offers structure where the Pisces native provides vision. In this mirror, the Pisces Rising encounters the call to ground themselves, to commit, and to tend to the realities of relationship rather than the ideals. Pisces seeks unity, Virgo offers refinement. The Pisces Rising soul longs for mystical connection, soulful merging, and unconditional acceptance. But Virgo in the 7th house introduces the necessity of healthy boundaries, practical communication, and discernment. The partner may initially appear too critical or emotionally restrained, but in time becomes a teacher in how to sustain love through clarity, accountability, and care. The polarity of Pisces and Virgo creates a powerful emotional intellectual axis. The relationship becomes the space where dream meets detail, where spiritual yearning is channeled into daily devotion. Mercury as ruler, thought, language, and loving precision. Mercury governs Virgo, the 7th house for Pisces Rising, and represents communication, cognition, and discernment. As the planet of rational thought, Mercury brings clarity and exactness into a domain that Pisces often approaches with surrender and openness. The partner is often cerebral, service-oriented, health-conscious, or precise in speech and thought. For Pisces Rising, this can initially feel like a mismatch, emotion meeting logic, but it is actually a gift. Mercury's influence ensures that the emotional waters of Pisces are kept clean, flowing, and grounded. Through this mirror, Pisces Rising learns to articulate their feelings, make conscious choices in partnership, and refine their empathy into service rather than sacrifice. Emotional landscape, from idealism to intention. Emotionally, Pisces Rising may enter relationships with idealism, romantic projection, or self-sacrifice. They want to heal, to save, to merge completely. But Virgo on the 7th house shows that love cannot be sustained by surrender alone. It must be worked on. The partner may demand consistency, clarity, or even critique, helping Pisces develop discernment between compassion and codependence. Love becomes a tool for integration. It's not about abandoning their dreams. It's about choosing partners who help shape those dreams into something livable, mutual, and real. Activation years and turning points. Kalatra Bhava activates for Pisces Rising at ages 7, 19, 31, 43, 55, 67, and 79. These years often bring sharp realizations about boundaries, service, and practicality in partnership. At 19 or 31, they may fall in love with someone who is very different from them, structured, organized, or analytical. At 43 and beyond, they begin to integrate these energies, learning that love is built not just on resonance, but on reliability. These turning points often carry a bittersweet flavor. There is disillusionment followed by clarity, loss followed by a more grounded connection. From dream to devotion. Ultimately, the 7th house for Pisces Rising offers the mirror of embodied relationship. Virgo teaches that love is not just mystical, it's methodical. The partner becomes not just a muse, but a mirror of their capacity to refine, show up, and take responsibility for the connection. The Pisces Rising native, shaped by this house, learns to bring their soulful tenderness into the light of everyday life. To choose love with clarity, to give without martyrdom, and to honor the sacred in the smallest gestures. In Virgo, the spiritual becomes tangible. And in that grounded devotion, Pisces rising finds not only their beloved, but themselves. The 7th house, or Kalatra Bhava, mirror of self, Pisces rising part 2. Conjunctions in Virgo, precision, practicality, and the healing of love through structure. Mercury and Venus in the 7th, graceful logic or emotional over-rationalization. For Pisces rising, Mercury, Virgo's ruler, and Venus together in the 7th house bring refinement, kindness, and a harmonious approach to relationships. If benefic, this pairing supports graceful communication, mutual respect, and a relationship built on subtle beauty, love expressed through thoughtful service and well-chosen words. The partner may be artistically talented yet practical, offering affection through routine and care. If afflicted, however, the relationship may remain too mental or aesthetic, with emotional depth sacrificed for niceness. The Pisces native may feel unseen emotionally, even if appreciated intellectually. The lesson: don't mistake politeness for presence or functionality for fulfillment. Mercury and Mars, sharp intellect or critical clash. This conjunction brings quick wit and assertive communication into the domain of partnership. For Pisces rising, the partner may be articulate, fiery, and mentally dynamic, someone who argues passionately, solves quickly, and challenges with precision. If benefic, this leads to dynamic problem-solving, intellectual stimulation, and mutual motivation. If afflicted, the relationship may suffer from verbal aggression, impatience, or constant correction. The Pisces rising may feel overwhelmed by the partner's need to fix or debate, learning to respond rather than retreat, or stand firm in their own voice with compassion, not collapse. Mercury and Saturn, structured dialogue or emotional inhibition. Saturn brings weight, Mercury brings thought. Together in Virgo, this creates a deeply responsible, serious-minded approach to relationships. For Pisces rising, this can bring a partner who is cautious in speech, slow to trust, and deliberate in all relational commitments. If benefic, the relationship is built on reliability, shared tasks, and intelligent cooperation. Love as service, care as consistency. If afflicted, however, communication may become dry, critical, or emotionally stifling. The Pisces native may feel judged or silenced, retreating into fantasy to escape the burden of constant correction. The challenge: to keep the heart alive inside the system. Mercury and Rahu, mental magnetism or obsessive thinking. Rahu inflates Mercury's analytical nature, especially in Virgo, where Mercury is exalted. For Pisces rising, this creates a partner who is intellectually sharp, possibly foreign or eccentric, and highly detail-focused. If benefic, the couple thrives on stimulating conversation, innovation, or shared research. If afflicted, this leads to hyperanalysis, overthinking, and emotional disconnection. The native may feel that love becomes a project, always being assessed, improved, or optimized. The lesson: emotional truth can't be proven, it must be felt. Sometimes what's messy is what's real. Mercury and Ketu, quiet precision or absent voice. Ketu brings detachment and spiritualization to Mercury's intellect. In Virgo, this can lead to a partner who is intelligent but silent, someone who communicates through service more than speech. If benefic, the relationship is minimalistic, focused, and inwardly connected. There may be shared interest in healing, research, or alternative thought systems. If afflicted, however, the partner may be emotionally absent, mentally scattered, or difficult to reach. Pisces rising may experience ghost-like dynamics in love, unable to locate the emotional center of the relationship. The path forward: speak your truth, even when no answer returns. Venus and Saturn, enduring devotion or emotional reserve. Venus softens Saturn's discipline and Saturn grounds Venus's pleasure. Together in Virgo, they create a relationship that is understated, loyal, and built on shared values. For Pisces rising, this may bring a partner who expresses love through hard work, time investment, and daily care. If benefic, this pairing leads to a stable, modest, and deeply reliable union. If afflicted, it may feel emotionally cold or sacrificial, where beauty is replaced with duty and affection is rare or earned. Pisces must learn to ask for love, not just assume it must be earned. Venus and Mars, balanced desire or functional friction. This sensual pairing in Virgo brings love and desire together in an earthy, service-oriented way. For Pisces rising, the relationship is built on shared purpose and physical compatibility, expressing affection through helpfulness, touch, or attentive care. If benefic, the couple finds joy in routine, health, or shared acts of service. If afflicted, however, the relationship may feel transactional or perfectionistic. Affection may come with conditions, and intimacy may be judged or overly critiqued. The Pisces native is reminded that devotion is not performance, it is presence. Venus and Ketu, subtle romance or detached affection. In Virgo, Venus and Ketu create a partner who may seem shy, inward, or emotionally refined. The relationship may be spiritual, artistic, or minimalist. If benefic, the bond is devotional, quiet, and pure, love expressed in small acts and gentle gestures. If afflicted, however, it may feel incomplete or unacknowledged. The partner may disappear emotionally or reject traditional romantic expression. The Pisces native must recognize the difference between mystical connection and emotional abandonment and ask, am I receiving love or only projecting it? Sun and Mercury, clarity or ego in communication. This conjunction makes for a partner with a strong mind and identity, clear in expression and decisive in thought. For Pisces rising, this may bring a helpful, rational companion who excels at life's logistics. If benefic, the partner offers guidance, organization, and shared responsibility. If afflicted, however, communication may become one-sided or dominated by ego. The relationship becomes about who's right, not what's real. The challenge, keep intellect in service to love, not above it. In summary, for Pisces rising, Virgo in the 7th house brings relationships that challenge their tendency toward romantic idealism and emotional fusion. These conjunctions in Virgo illuminate what is often left vague, requiring the dreamer to face the daily work of partnership. Some combinations bring calm, grounded love. Others confront them with criticism, silence, or the need to define what they hoped could remain magical. But all of them serve the same evolutionary function, to teach that love is not just felt, it is practiced. Not just dreamed, but built. In Virgo, relationships become altars of sacred attention, where feeling meets form and compassion is expressed through care. The greatest gift for Pisces rising is not losing their mysticism, but learning how to anchor it in actions that serve. In doing so, they become capable of a love that's not just transcendent, but trustworthy.